Welcome to the Brian Wright Show audio experience, a podcast dedicated to transforming lives, careers, and businesses. And now your host. He's a husband, father of two, an international business and life coach, the founder and CEO of New Patient Group and Wright Chat, and a consultant and global speaker for some of the finest companies in the world, such as Invisalign and many others. Now, here's your host, Brian Wright.
Hey everybody, welcome inside the broadcast booth. Brian Wright here, and welcome into another edition of the podcast. Hope everybody is doing great out there. This was a couple of years ago. If you look in there, hey YouTube followers, I'll move this over. If you look here, this actual mic, and I don't use it very often. This is really when I have, in our niche, our doctors over, or just whatever type of business owner it may be over at my house. It's part of our mastermind session. We come in, have groups, we do life stuff, career stuff, we cook, we act like we're five, but get a lot done, go hiking, and it's always a good time. But I wanted to make sure that when I have people in, that one of the new things we're doing is they're going to be guests on the podcast. So every time people come and stay, we'll do a recording. So I had to get another mic. So I'm in Best Buy, and, I wanted to get a good one, but not one. I use a Golden Heil mic, which is about as good as you can get. I really enjoy this mic, reliable. The sound quality is really good. And because I'm not going to use the other mic that often, I figured, we don't need to go as great, but I still wanted to be really good. So it's a really solid mic, and I do occasionally use it just to kind of test the sound comparisons, things like that. So while I'm looking, this kid that works at Best Buy comes up, and he's talking to me, and he's like, "Hey, do you have a podcast?" I said, "Yeah, it's the Brian Wright Show." And we got into this conversation, and it's interesting when you have a podcast. And for those of you who know me, especially know me well, I'm one of the biggest dorks you'll ever you'll ever meet. And success and things typically don't go to my head. And I certainly am focused on making sure they don't go to my head. It's not that guy. So, as you travel around and speak on stage, and you're walking through the event, hotel, or whatever it may be, or somebody on an airplane finds out you have a podcast, or whatever it may be, like this guy at Best Buy, people are like, "Oh my God, it's so nice to meet you." Like they treat you differently. It's very interesting. So I always, when I get into these conversations, I get a little, I don't know, blushed, if you will. But at the same time, I guess we all have an ego to a certain extent. So it obviously tickles that a little bit. But this kid was kind of the same way. He was like, "Oh my God, you have a podcast. Tell me more." And blah. So I ended up staying in there for like an hour talking to him. Well, the main reason I stayed so long talking to him was he he told me about, I don't know, 5 minutes into our conversation, I have wanted to have a podcast for so long, and I've been taking notes, and I've been planning things out, and I've been reading, and I've been studying other people's podcasts, and I've been doing all these things. And I told him, "So how long you been doing that?" And he goes, "Gosh, it's been at least a year now, maybe 2 years." And my response is, "Why don't you have a podcast yet?" "Well, I'm doing all the planning and everything." So what are you planning for? "Hey, do you know what you want to talk about?" And he knew what he wanted to talk about. He was a tech guy, so he wanted to have it around tech and AI, and even some video game type stuff and coding and stuff like that. That I was like, "Hey, look, I mean, I'd listen to that, because that's not a lot of knowledge. I'm a tech guy, just like I'm a car guy. But if you asked me to fix a car, we'd be in big trouble. I'm a huge car fan, but if we open up the hood and had to do some work on the engine, we're in big trouble." And same way with a lot of technology. I'm a tech guy, but I wouldn't know how to open it up and fix it or anything like that. So, hey, that's really cool. I go, "So why haven't you done your first episode?" And he thought about it, and he's like, I don't know. And this is such a problem for so many of you out there. And whether it's personal life related, whether it's your career related, whether business owners out there, it's your business, is, we seek so much knowledge. And there's this, why I titled it today what I did, because the knowledge, everybody, is not power. And there's something called the deep dive effect, and the deep dive effect is real. It affects us all in certain, and this is really based on your personality too. I typically am a guy, like, I like change. Change doesn't scare me. If I have a new idea, that's going to flip everything that we've ever taught on its head in the past. I'll get it implemented tomorrow. And sometimes I run into a problem where sometimes I'll implement it faster than I can even communicate it to our own team. So it's like they're trying to catch up. They're wondering, "Hey, Brian, what the hell are you doing?" And I always have to remind myself of that from a leadership standpoint. Is look, you've got to communicate this to the team. Let them know the direction you're going before you actually just go there. But I am a guy that will, and many years ago, we kicked off. I don't know if it was season 4 or 5. I have no idea, but there's a podcast, and I believe it was the first episode of a particular year. If you go back, and it was all about ready, shoot, aim. And that's the guy that I am. And I think that makes the best CEOs out there. The visionaries will get an idea, implement it as fast as they can, screw everything up in the process, and then perfect it before the next guy's even implemented it. Just like this guy with his podcast, where he would just, he was getting ready, and he was going to take years to aim to make sure the shot is perfect, and then maybe fire. And so many of you do this, and the deep dive effect, the psychology of it, it goes in more depth if you want to look this up. But really, what it's saying is, and what it talks about is how humans seek out so much information that it causes us to make the wrong decisions, or it causes us to not act and implement, or whatever it may be, start a podcast like this guy. And it's a real thing with humans, and some people it hurts more than others. And that's to say, like with me, it hurts me, but it doesn't hurt me as bad because if I want to change, let's say I want to change out my workout routine, I'll do that, implement it. I'm already on it the next morning. For so many, and like the deep dive effect, what we'll talk about, and all of you can relate to this in some form or fashion. But I always, when I'm on stage or teaching this with customers, is it's the weight loss analogy. And this guy with the podcast, it's the same thing, like the weight loss analogy. You will sit there, and so many people will be like, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds is an example number. I'm going to do it. So what do? They don't get up in the morning and do 10 push-ups and then do another 10 push-ups before they go to bed, right? What they do is, most people, and this analogy rings true for so many of you out there, employees listening in your career, if you want to change up something to gain a better skill set or to make more money, get promoted, whatever it is, all the above. Business owners, same way. You want to change an idea, implement something new. Instead of just doing it and then search for information while you're doing it to keep getting better, we do it the opposite, where it's like, okay, I don't want to lose weight. Boy, gosh, should I go vegan? Should I go, all carnivore, all meat? Should it be a mix? When should I do the push-ups? When's the best time to work out? Let me read the books. Let me study and look up 18,000 websites on Google. Let me look at this. Let me look at that. Let me try to perfect this. Gosh, let me make sure my form is right. God, do I need to learn a new cooking skill? Do I need to cook with a different oil? God, let's take all the notes. Let's gain all the knowledge. 6 months goes by and you haven't done squat. And in the process, all you're doing is confusing yourself in the meantime. Like, whenever you're ready to implement it, like actually start eating healthier and doing some cardio and lifting weights, right? It's not going to be perfect anyway. And this is so true, business owners out there in and out of our niche. This is so true for all you. What you have to understand, and I've talked about this in other podcasts, how for our niche out there, your clinical brain really screws your success because you want everything so perfect, so fine, so exactly right, because your brains are like engineers, that it's really hard for you to grasp on your business. It's never going to be that way. And the more perfect you try to make it, the more you're going to screw up, because all of this planning, all of this reading, all of this gaining knowledge, you guys, well, let's interview 18 consultants, right? Let's do this. Let's interview 18 marketing companies and all this. Let's ask 50 of my friends what I should do. You do so much homework that in 6 months, nothing's happened, and you've lost another 500 grand in lost opportunities while you're searching out how to make the right move. Instead of going, hey, look, like as an example with us, like listening to, oh God, I like Brian Wright's message. let's just use him. Let's jump in, let's get to work, and let's see how it goes. Right. And then if it's not going well, then we can kind of interview and look up stuff. We can make a punt switch later. That's not how the vast majority of you do it. That's also not how the vast majority of you do it outside of our niche when we work with restaurants, hotels, other people first businesses. Knowledge is not power, everybody. It's the implementation of the knowledge and speed of implementation of the knowledge that is true power. I hear all the time when I'm hopping off stage and people will grab me and they're like, Brian, the competition is killing me. Right. We've got this new GP in the area and he stopped referring to me because he's doing Invisalign inside his practice. Or Brian, we've got a new Italian restaurant down the street that opened up, and God, they're taking market share from us. And I sit there, and obviously those are two examples of hundreds. And I sit there and I say, guys, in this infinite world, there is no rules in the sense of if you're playing baseball, there's rules. If you're playing basketball, there's rules. Right? You can't just in the middle of a game, add a new team member to your team that comes in the third quarter. Right? You can't do that. Like if you make a trade, great. The player's not going to be the player can't come in that same game when you make a trade. Like there's rules. There's finish lines, right? At the third out of the bottom of the ninth inning in baseball, if you're ahead 3-2, you win. Right? That's the finite world. The infinite world is anything can really happen at any time. There are no rules. If somebody wants to move in down the street from you tomorrow and open up a practice, they can. Which is why you always, same way. Again, if somebody wants to go down the street and open up an Italian restaurant, they can. If they want to go down the street, open up a new hotel from your hotel, they can. Plumber, lawyer, list goes on and on. So the mindset has to be that could happen at any time, which is why all of you need to be on your A+ game all the time, always searching how to get better, always refining things, always making sure things are better today than they were yesterday. And that requires a lot of speed of implementation. It requires taking, you guys have heard me, bias kills innovation. I've never really done a podcast specifically on that. I've mentioned it 1,000 times, but how you feel about something will absolutely keep you from implementing new things. And it's why oftentimes true innovation is brought into an industry from people that have no prior experience in it. Richard Branson, Elon, I could go on and on. You guys have heard me mention that on podcasts in the past. So as we seek out, and this is real for people in our niche, and for people outside of our niche, this would be you can picture this if you're shopping for Invisalign, and I use Invisalign. Everybody knows out there as an example. Everybody gets it, whether you're in our niche or out. They have 98, 99% brand awareness, which is why you should do everything to partner with them and market why you're the best at it, because that's what people are entering in. But as they enter it in, and there's so many different options that come up, we've entered in this new economy, we've entered into a situation where people are calling 5 or more practices to get information. They are going in 3 or more practices to get information. They are looking at YouTube videos and TikTok videos, and they are seeking out knowledge. They are seeking out information. And the problem is, and they don't even realize it, is that in the process, all they're doing is confusing themselves. And you have heard me, consumers out there outside our niche, you can understand this because if you typed in Invisalign and there's 10 choices within 10 miles of your house, now what? What are you going to do? Well, you're going to go to their websites. You're going to read their information. You're going to see if they have YouTube videos. You're going to check out their social media channels. You're going to pick up and call them. And this is what people do, whether they're shopping for Invisalign or something else in ortho, if they're shopping for a new dentist, if they're shopping for a car. Like the buying process and the psychological things that go through people's mind are all the same, no matter what you're trying to make a purchase. And so many of you out there, you forget this. This is why in our niche, one of the best marketing investments you'll ever make and why Iconic is so popular is because Iconic will never have an inside our niche speaker. right? It's always going to be speakers and training around true experts in people first businesses. So whether you're seeking and purchasing Invisalign, or you're seeking and purchasing an Italian restaurant, a steakhouse to go to, which hotel you want to go to, the processes are exactly the same. How the website looks, the ease of reservations, right? How the food is showcased, how your orthodontics are showcased. Is the chef on the YouTube station? Is the doctor on the YouTube station? Can I meet the team? Can I get a video tour around the place? Right? How are you portraying yourself? Which is why the digital marketing is part of the consumer journey. It's not pay per clicks, as you can't look at it that way. It's part and one part of the journey that people take with you. So as people are searching out this information, and one practice is like, nope, can't do it with Invisalign. Another practice is, yep, we can do it with Invisalign. The next practice, like, you start to get confused the more information you seek out. And then the more information you seek out, there's so many practices do everything the same, right? The receptionist is not a sales machine. They're just there collecting data. So you can't, so no practice is differentiated there. You walk in, you sit in the waiting room, no practice is differentiated there. Almost all practices don't scan with the best sales tool through experience ever created in ortho, the iTero machine. So there's no differentiation there. They present money the same. No, I could go on and on. And the problem is, a lot of you out there in our niche think you're different, and you're not. Like, you're not unique at all whatsoever, which is why you have a hard time charging higher prices, because you don't offer any additional value proposition. Even though you think you do, your team is unable to sell it from A to Z. Hey there, everybody. Brian Wright of The Brian Wright Show. Let's step away from today's podcast. Just remember, as we talk about this, implementation of the knowledge you have, that is true power. The knowledge itself, not true power. And I really hope you're taking home today's messaging. But before we continue on with the podcast, I have a favor to ask you. 2 new YouTube stations we have that I ask you, and I'm going to put the link in the description below. I asked you to subscribe to both. For years, we had our new patient group station with thousands of people on there that watched our content. If they're going to watch this video instead of listen to this podcast, if they wanted to watch it via video, they would go there. Well, we have switched YouTube stations for 2 reasons. One, we rebranded the new patient group podcast, as all of you know, into the Brian Wright Show. And when we did that, the Brian Wright Show now has its own website. It also has its own YouTube station. So I ask all of you to go there and subscribe to the new Brian Wright Show YouTube station. It would help us out a lot. You'll be able to get great content whenever we come out with it. So please subscribe. I'm going to put that link below. Also, we have a new patient group YouTube station, as well as my other company, Wright Chat. We combine those, and it's a new patient group and Wright Chat YouTube station. To make sure that you're getting our 5 fantastic minutes and all of our great content that's in our niche, please make sure to go and subscribe to that as well. We're trying to build up those listening, those followers. Like we said, we had a huge one over on our old YouTube station. We're now trying to get everybody to make that move over to the Brian Wright Show YouTube station and the new patient group YouTube station as well. It would really help us out. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much to everybody. And now let's get back to today's episode. During that customer experience process, this is the same way outside our niche with so many of you, that you're so inundated with how do I get more new patients, new customers, blah, 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 that you forget it's all about the experience. So as people seek, they get confused. They end up, and this confusion ends up making people either have and make the wrong decision, or part of that decision is they don't buy at all because they're confused, and the confusion delays the process. Then life happens, a year goes by, and they haven't done anything. And make no mistake about it, all of you out there in our niche or not, this is happening to you. This deep dive effect, the psychology of it is real, is that gaining knowledge, everybody, is fine. It's the implementation of the knowledge that's going to make you win. That is the true power. Knowledge is not power. Implementation of the knowledge you receive, that's power. And I would argue even more is proper implementation of the knowledge you receive is true power. And you say proper, what's that? And part of that is do it as fast as you possibly can. You guys have heard me talk about this in other areas. Like, be willing to screw it up. You can always seek knowledge as you're going along the process after you've started. Like I said, losing weight. If you want to try to be a vegan or all meat combination of both. Learn how to cook fresh food better, right? Are you going to lift weights, do yoga, do whatever it is, Pilates, all the above? You're going to do it in the morning or night? Whatever it is, you can learn how to perfect those after you started lifting weights or doing push-ups. And I speak to all of you right now. If you're trying to get in a better shape, build muscle, lose weight, combination of both, the very first thing you should do when you get out of bed in the morning is drop down and do as many push-ups as you can, right? And if that's 10, okay, great. Set a goal for 20. Do 10, and then tomorrow do 11. And then you may fall backwards again, do 10 again. But get to a goal of 20 and do that before you leave your bedroom. Right now, you're going along. Right now, the knowledge you can gain, you can implement along the way. Business owners out there, same way. Orthos and clinicians, like just in our dentists, just in our space. Like I said, you're some of the worst at this because your clinical brain try to perfects everything. You can never run your business this way. And you've heard this messaging in different ways on this podcast in the past, but the true winner, this is why I was talking about it earlier too, is when I hear about, I don't think I finished the point on this earlier, is when I hear people when I get off stage or in the sales process or whatever, and they say, competition is why I'm not succeeding. These are these gravity problems I talk so much about out there that when I fly planes and you've got to know that gravity, this is why I call it that. You've got to know that gravity exists and it's trying to take your plane out of the air at all times. Right? So planes fly with speed, they fly with flap position, they fly with speed and flap position based on in different flaps and different speeds at different times. Like the gravity you can't control, but you can control the knowledge you have to make sure the gravity doesn't take you out of the air. And these gravity problems are things that we can't control. You can't control somebody going down the street and opening up another Italian restaurant. You can't control somebody going down the street and opening up an all Invisalign practice when you're trying to do more Invisalign. You can't control those things. Right? And that is one of the reasons it's not your competition. Right? Your competition is not a slow metabolism. Your competition is not, hey, I was raised by two duds as parents, and therefore I didn't get to go to college. When 75% of billionaires didn't go to college or they dropped out, the smartest business brains on the planet have no college degree. Like, these are all uncontrollable things. Your competition is the controllables. You got a slow metabolism? Okay, work harder. You can control that, right? Have more patience. Hold yourself accountable more because the process of losing weight is going to take longer. Same way with business. You got a guy down the street, girl down the street doing Invisalign, and you want to increase your share to chair with Invisalign. Okay, it may take longer, but that's not your competition. Implementation, proper implementation of the knowledge you gain on an ongoing basis, that's your competition, period. Because if you implement fast, implement well, always have a focus on getting ideas and then implementing them, you will kick their butt. It may not be tomorrow, it may not even be in 2 years. But as far as the infinite journey of business, an infinite journey of your career, everybody out there, and the infinite journey of life, you will always be in the winner's seat. I say that with air quotes because, again, the infinite journey of life, there is no finish line and there's no 3-2. Hey, Joe won, right? Just because you're winning now doesn't mean you're going to win in 3 weeks, right? So I say that with air quotes, but you're going to come out and you're going to be successful. You're going to achieve or surpass your goals as long as you're the one that is implementing the knowledge you receive. Implementation of the knowledge is power, period. I can't tell you how many times I get asked all the time. So one of the reasons I get asked to speak, and there's a lot of them, but one of the reasons is I give away a lot of free information. And I do it for a couple reasons. One is I truly want to help. It's the same way with this podcast. Like, I truly want to help all of you out there because there are so many misguided misconceptions out there. Business owners are confused as hell. You go to you go to an event that's about marketing and advertising, it's packed, but you go to an event on how to treat your customers at a higher level, there's hardly anybody there. That right there shows you that you all have your mind completely flipped. You do a webinar in our niche about gaining more new patients, there's 800 people on it. You do a webinar about how to treat your existing patients better, and refine your experiences on the new and existing patient side, it's empty. And it just shows you all you have your mindset backwards. And this is why it just goes back. The top 1% of businesses, they all do it the same way. But the 99, actually, I would say even less than 1%, it's really 99.9% of businesses will look at that and they still won't do it. The top 1%ers aren't worried about advertising and marketing. They're worried about how to uniquely set their business up in a way along the customer experience journey before and after sale that's going to turn customers into fans, turn them into raging Salesforce people, right? They're raging fans. They're going to go out there and sell like crazy, send you referrals like crazy. And they're always looking to train their people better and create unique digital marketing content from within inside their doors. That's what they do. But guys, that's work. Right? It's easy to it's easy to pay Joe to go do pay-per-click advertising for you. And then you wonder why your conversion sucks and you're not getting the right customer. Competition. Look, we'll put it this way. Is it real that if somebody opens down the street from you or two people open in your community that it could take market share? Yeah. Nobody's saying that that's not a real thing. But the problem is so many of you are reactive to it. It's like, okay, now what? As opposed to being like, okay, now what? Before they ever open, you don't even know they're opening. Like if it's that mindset, the mindset should always be an Italian restaurant could go across the street tomorrow. A hotel could go across the street from us tomorrow. An Invisalign practice could go across the street from us tomorrow. A dental practice could go across the street from us tomorrow. The mindset is always got to be there because what would you do today if that happened? And whatever the answers are to that, you better start doing them. And this isn't necessarily about proactive, reactive, things like that, but there's so many things that come into you guys all go to. And here's another one. And this is kind of part two of why I get asked to speak a lot and why I have this podcast too. Is I know sitting back here giving all this information out is I give away a lot of great ideas. I give away a lot of innovation. Basically, I give away a lot of free stuff to all of you. You're never going to implement it. It's the same way when you go to these big events and there's 1 million speakers and there's 8,000 people. If your people aren't being role played with, tell me how the hell they're ever going to go back and implement any of that. Think about that. This is one of many reasons Iconic is completely different than anything that's ever existed in our niche, period. Because your people are role played with, they're practiced with, we're putting them into difficult positions to make sure your people first business that all of you are, whether you're in or out of our niche, is represented in a way that no other people business is. But if you go to an event and I'm standing on stage and I'm giving you 100 ideas, you guys are not going to go back and implement it. 1% of the audience will. 1%, just like on this podcast, the vast majority of you, and as the following grows and grows, the listening base grows and grows, the majority of you out there aren't doing it. That is your ultimate competition right there. Knowledge is worthless unless you're going to implement it well. And so many of you are obsessed with knowledge, which on one hand is great. Right? You're going to be reading books. You go to all these events. You soak in all this knowledge. But then also the deep dive effect happens because you listen to one speaker say you shouldn't do it this way. The next speaker hops up and says the opposite. Then you listen to one digital marketing person say do it this way. Another digital marketing person hops up, says the opposite. And you leave more confused than ever. And you never even consider your business model. But I've said it 1 million times on here is that if you're a business or a practice that's in our niche or a business outside of our niche, what we teach on here and what this messaging is for is how to charge more than all of your air quotes competition, right? And also convert and sell at a higher level. And then also turn those people into referrals and turn them into your sales force. Now, there's a major recipe book to that, and there's a huge art to that. That's what we teach. So if you're already a high-end restaurant, a high-end orthodontic practice, as 2 examples, we'll make you better. If you're somebody in the middle, we'll get you to that high end place. If you're somebody that's cheap today, we'll get, and you want to take the journey, we'll take you that journey and eventually take you to the middle of the ground and then high level. And then we'll keep you there, which is even harder. It's like getting to the World Series is hard enough, but getting back the next year is even harder. So many of you guys have to remember that. So as you're out here seeking knowledge, reading books, going to these events, you're deep diving, you're affecting yourself, you're collecting too much data. It ends up confusing you. All you do, all you do is delay. I think I told this story years ago, but with my other company, Wright, this is such a perfect example where this guy, and most of you out there don't have your missed new patient and new customer call data. Right? It's happening to all of you. Day spas, plumbers, lawyers, restaurants, in our niche, orthodontics, dentistry, optometry, other specialty docs, happen to all of you. You're all losing your butt on missed opportunities by not answering the phones when you're regular business hours when you're fully staffed. Happens to all of you. Some of you lose millions based on your price point and quantity. Others that, you only have a few customers to begin with, right? You could add 2 or 3 or 4 customers a month overnight if you just got your phones right. Well, this guy actually had the data and knew he was missing these new patient calls. And he wanted to wait until he got a new phone system. He was like interviewing 4 or 5 phone systems. He was asking us. And months upon months went by. He still hadn't made a decision. And at the same time, he already knew he's losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue opportunity a year by not answering his phone. So here's a guy that actually had the data and still didn't act. He was sitting there trying to gain knowledge, reading, interviewing companies, asking his peers, asking us, which phone system should I use, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Like, use a phone system from 25 years ago. Just answer the damn phones. And boom, you'll have 500 grand for him. He was very high quantity. He could have literally plugged a $500,000 a year leaky hole overnight, but chose not to implement because he's got all this knowledge in his head and now he can't make the right decision. And this happens to, like, in our niche, you're some of the smartest people on the planet, but you make some of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen in my entire life. From a business standpoint, you trip over dollars to pick up pennies. You hire cheaper companies because you think they're cheaper on paper. Meanwhile, they suck. Instead, if you would have just invested in the better company, just like a stock, your return would have been way better. And this isn't just in our niche. This is why so many businesses go under, because those outside of our niche, one of the things the doctors in our niche can get away with is they can make the same mistakes you all make with your business. Your business will go out of business by doing it. They'll still bring home a ton of money. And this is the challenge in the niche, is changing their mindset and understanding you should be bringing home way more than you do, working and stressing less. But when you bring home 500 or a million or 2 million a year, it's hard unless your mindset is already in a place like we teach to always be striving to get better. So there's a disconnect there, because you'll make a lot of money, think you're doing things well. I'll look at it and go, it's a disaster. You should be making 3 times as much and working less. And it's hard to convince the people in our niche to do that. People outside our niche, you're doing everything you can to scratch, crawl, and make it and survive just the next day. Even though you're running the business the same way they are. Same mistakes, same leaky holes. And this doctor, this obsession with knowledge, this obsession with getting all these ideas, literally caused him to make a really stupid decision. I think all of you out there would go, if you knew you were losing $500,000 a year or more realistic, let's just say you're a smaller business and you had the numbers that was saying you were losing, $5,000 a month as an example, $10,000 a month, $2,000 a month, whatever the hell it is. I think everybody would agree, if you knew that and there was an easy solution like Wright, you should have signed up the next day and plugged the hole. Then you could go look for different phone systems or whatever it is. Just like you could do 10 push-ups every morning, every night, while you're looking for, what should I eat? Blah, blah, blah. You could implement something cool with your marketing online, right? And do it fast. And then study and gain knowledge on how to make it better or even change it altogether. See, this is what you all need to be doing because the people that implement fast, the people that are willing to self educate, which is a big part of this, like many of you don't even self educate, right? This is true in our lives too. You'll watch something on the ridiculous media and think it's true. Like you won't self educate. You'll just go around telling people what you heard on the TV. This is so true in our niche. You hear a speaker on stage say something, all of a sudden you think it's true. This is outside our niche. You've got to self educate. But while you're self educating, you can't wait to implement things. Knowledge and all the self education on the planet. You're going to go to these events. Great. You're a learner. Wonderful. But guess what? I could not go to these events and implement something while you're sitting there studying your notes and going through and asking your peers. Well, I implemented something yesterday that has a real impact, right? And then I can improve it. I can practice on it. I can get the processes better, blah, 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 and make it better and perfect it before you still have even implemented it. And the guess what? The thing too is you guys have heard me talk about this on before. No matter how long you wait, you're still going to screw it up when you implement it. Now you could study a recipe and try to make the perfect lasagna, right? But if you just jump in and do it, you're probably going to make the same mistakes you're going to make if you try to perfect it and study it and read it and know what processes, what tools do I need, and what stove and all this stuff, which a lot of you do using that analogy. And then you go make the lasagna and you screw it up anyway. And I would make the argument that you're going to screw it up worse if you're on information overload, which the deep dive effect is. And again, going back, this affects all of the people you want to become customers out there. It affects them during the buying process, the whole decision-making process, and it affects all the business owners out there because you don't implement well. You don't even implement, but you're obsessed with knowledge. What this kid at Best Buy should have done, everybody, is said, hey, look, these are some things I'm passionate about. Let me get a cheap microphone. I mean, if you go look at season 1 of this podcast, and it may have been even season 2 and 3, the sound quality sucks. I go back and listen just because it makes me chuckle and go, man, I don't even like the way I sound or how I delivered that message. That was terrible. But it didn't keep me from getting started because the quicker so many of you out there find out if your idea is crap or not, the better. And what I told this kid is look, your podcast should be started within a week. You've got the knowledge, you know your stuff. You're talking to me about tech and all this stuff. You know what you're talking about. Go find out if the world likes it. And you've got to be patient and consistent enough. I mean, there's so many people that try to start a podcast and it's gone in a week. I tell my team this a lot, and I don't know if all of you understand like how hard it is to do a show like this that doesn't have, and we are, and I know I've said this in the past too, that we're going to have more guests, and we are. It just hasn't happened yet. We're organizing that and trying to map it out for future seasons, making sure that the people that are going to be guests have the time, and that time coincides with my time, and it's kind of the scheduling sometimes can be a challenge, but it's coming. But doing a show like this that doesn't really have guests, and we're in our 8th season. Guys, it's hard. It's a lot of studying, a lot of prep work. You have to be in the right mindset, at least I do, to be able to get back here. And there's a huge energy and effort that goes into this. And it can suck you mentally dry sometimes, but I love it so much. I love giving you all information that can change your lives. It can change your employees' careers and it can change your businesses out there. I love it. I just love helping people. But this kid, just like all of you, had an idea. He was passionate about it. He did his homework. And through the homework, he woke up a year later and realized he hasn't done squat. Stop doing that, everybody. If it's something you want to accomplish in your life, like I said, I always use the weight loss example. It's easy to get, everybody understands it, but it could be 1,000 other examples. Could be you want to have a tough conversation with your spouse about your marriage, whatever it is, you're putting it off and you're studying on how to best have that whatever it is. Business owners out there, you want to have a conversation with your employees, or employees out there, you want to gain a skill set to add more value to what you do for a business, to get a promotion and a pay raise. Business owners out there, entrepreneurs out there, in and out of our niche, same thing. Stop going to all these events. And instead, why don't you invest in the implementation of stuff? Being held accountable, being coached to it. You're going to get way bigger return doing that than you are going to these events. It's a completely different mindset that a lot of you have to get in to understand that the true knowledge, or what makes the true knowledge great, is going and implementing it. And that kid should have done it way faster while he was still studying. He could have had 100 episodes, 50 episodes, one episode, who cares? But he could have gotten the process started. But knowledge is worthless unless you implement it. You're better off having one little itsy bitsy teens of knowledge in your head and implement that really well than somebody else that's got 50 million pieces of knowledge in their head because they're a learning junkie that's never implemented any of it. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge implemented and then implemented well, that is power, and it's such a unique competitive advantage for all of you. And this is true in your life, your career, your business, everybody out there. Hope you enjoyed today. And as always, give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Share this with anybody that's wanting to watch in order to change their life, career, and their business. And all of the people listening on all the audio experience channels out there, same way. Write us a 5-star review. Share it with anybody that wants to listen on those audio channels to get more out of their life, career, and business. And to all of you, as we keep growing this podcast and it keeps rocking and rolling on a global following now, it's one of the reasons why I've stopped saying welcome Brian Wright Show Nation. I used to say that. I'm not saying it anymore. And I'm not saying it anymore because we're in 127 countries and growing like a weed, all right? Share it with everybody. Appreciate your following. Love all of you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.